most sexiest topic for the urban planning, but it does really impact on people's life. The title is a little bit strange. It's Ibasho. It is a Japanese term where I'm originally from, the place where you feel at home being yourself. Why I started to talk about this Ibasho is the story you will hear today. Today's lecture is organized in such that during my presentation, I would like you to reflect aging issue as your own issues, because a lot of times we deal with aging issue as someone else's, older people's issues. But unfortunately, aging is not option. It happens to everyone, and it happened to your parents first. It just become a personal issues. So it is a policy issues, but we all have to change our social mindset to adapt the social change that is going to be caused by aging issues. Because, if we don't do anything about aging, especially the development of the city, we are facing a big disaster here. So this is a picture that I took from one of the projects. This captures so nicely with how I like to age. So I would like to ask you questions. How many of you are excited about getting old? Raise your hands. Yeah? How many of you are not excited about getting old? Why? But actually, I have to tell you that we have a few more people who raise hands for the positive part, which doesn't happen in Japan lecture in the States. So maybe reflecting from the previous happiness scale, maybe people in Moscow might be happier. So what are the issues that we are facing in the urban, development when the aging happens? Elders are not able to drive a car. What happens if you can't drive? But you just cannot access to the services if the urban planning is not designed in such that people can use public transportation or walking distance. Get out for entertainment. We have a concept of aging in place. Means that we would like, in the Western world, in Japan, in the States, and a lot of people actually prefer to stay at home, so government wants to support it. But staying at home doesn't mean that you want to stay at home being alone. We have to really think about how people can access to entertainment and, enjoying the friends relationship. And it becomes very difficult for older people to visit family with the current urban area. And it's complete household tasks. I see a lot of young people here, so you probably were thinking that, well, it may happen, it may not happen to you. But unfortunately, one of those days, it does happen to all of us. And, I have to share one story about my advisor when I was finishing up my doctoral degree. He was designing urban issues, urban development for the older people. He also designed for nursing homes. He had a Parkinson's disease when he was still teaching. He called me up and said, I have a Parkinson's disease. I just diagnosed. And I have to tell you, I'm thinking about my life, think that what was I doing for 30 years of my teaching life? I tried to change the environment for older people to make city livable. I try to change the housing for older people, especially for nursing home, but I realized that I can't stay at home because the city is not accommodating. It's my Parkinson's disease. If we don't do anything now, we will probably be saying the same thing. And my advisor started to look for a nursing home. I could not find any nursing home he will fit in. I just don't think that he fits into senior center because someone like him needs a normal place, but we only have a social services that we sort of warehouse older people. So we all have to, change our societal mindset to prepare for ourselves, because change takes years and years to have a little, little impact even. So if you were to be thinking, oh man, I'm young enough that, once I get older, urban planning will be changed, housing situation will be different, policies will be changed, you will be very surprised how little thing we can change over here. And use of high-tech tech devices can be challenging for people. So I just want to give you like very basic, like what makes inclusive cities like. It's resources to maintain health and live independently. Our challenge here, we have been, like in the States, we have been focusing on keeping people at home because that's what the older people want, so as you, probably when you get old. But our challenge is not about living at home only. We have to actually keep elders living at home, not being socially isolated. So we have to actually put a little more resources to prevent social isolation part. There is a news for you. There is no pill to fix loneliness. I was living in a nursing home for 3 weeks just for my research. But there was an old lady came up and said, well, Amy, you've been telling me that is anything I can do for you. I have one favor to ask you. I'm so lonely. Can you do something to help me? And I talked to the medical director, said she's very lonely. And the medical director said, I'm so sorry, there's no pill. So we talked about what we can do. What she needed was a friend. What she needed was someone to recognize who she was. She was a teacher. So we brought children into her life, so that she can be useful to others. So, when we think about changing environment, we also have to think, thinking about investing social capital, part of it, to help older people. So inclusive city, what it needs is economic security. If you're very poor, you just cannot really sustain. Affordable housing is an issue. I'm just only listing this up in case you are interested in designing for the cities for the older people. Adequate transportation, again, if you don't drive, what are you gonna do? You need to rely on transportation. Participation of a community life. Again, our policy so far has not done a good job to including older people as a part of the city activities. Opportunity for meaningful employment and civic participation. I think Moscow has a very similar issue as like a Japanese place. We have just growing number of older people, and also we have a low birth rate. What it tells you is that, yes, we don't even have people who look after older people very soon because we don't have enough workforce. So what we have to do is to mobilize older people themselves to help each other. And affordable long-term services, meaningful caregiver support. And we also have to change the society that understand the positive aspect of aging. Because, aging is not easy for me even. Like, I look at my wrinkles and I can't walk fast. But at the same time, you have a lot of positive issues, the things that comes with it. So I don't know how many of you went to a nursing home before? Raise your hands. The older people's home? Yeah. I kind of assumed that not many people were living in nursing home. So I lived in nursing home for 3 weeks for my master's study. And I wanted to show you my experience. I study architecture, so I wanted to learn how people live, how environment was like in nursing home. So I just wanted to show you the pictures because I lived in there with my wheelchair and my right arm on my sling. I was continent, so I had privacy in my bathroom, but everything else was exactly the same as a patient's life. And I did not last more than 3 weeks because I really had a mental breakdown. It was not easy to live in nursing home. So this is a view at the hallway, and it was a very nice nursing home. This is a dining room. What you can see is that it could be a nice decoration. It's a large space in the States, but elders are not very happy. It doesn't give you the sense of home-like environment. So I was taking this picture because it was a picture of desperation of me. When I was in a wheelchair, what happened is that if someone blocked one side of the hallway, I could not move. So I was stuck for 45 minutes easily. And if I complained, the nurses will say, you just have to wait. But 45 minutes of doing nothing was very difficult. So this is a nurse station. So this was my life every day. And this was the living room space, which, for the nursing home, they say we have socializing place where people can socialize. But you can actually see that older people are not that happy. And, we talk a lot about safety issues. This is a medicine cart. When it's parked on the hallway, I was stuck for like 2 hours easily because I needed to adapt my lifestyle to the institutional way, which I was never used to from home. So this person has a severe dementia, and she could have just picked up the medicine, just take it. We have to really rethink about the different way of providing an environment for older people. So when you are in the wheelchair, you will realize, I realized, everything looked very close to you, that's up close. So I was very surprised that everything looks just so big and it's just very strangely scary. You were just hoping that if someone's pushing cart behind, will see you. Otherwise you will be threatened, you're very frightened. So everything is very close. These are the things we may not realize. But you can see, you can smell everything if you are in the wheelchair. I will highly recommend you to just try to put yourself into a wheelchair. It doesn't have to be 3 weeks, but one day, or could be like 1 hour, you'll be surprised how different the view can be because your wheelchair view is much lower. And a lot of things are hanged very high. You cannot even open the door. You cannot even reach out to the doorbells. Nothing. So can you guess where this is? It's a nurse station, and it's sadly I was talking to a nurse at this time. It was again one thing I realized. It was very difficult to talk to someone if I don't see their face. And we're talking about the people with dementia to communicate. They are not able to feel comfortable because I was not feeling comfortable speaking someone behind the counter. And this is simple thing. It's just a lot of posters and an announcement for residents are hanged too high. Because what we do is that we're standing and walking around and put announcements without eye level, which is normally much higher than a wheelchair. I studied a lot about ADAs, this American Disability Act. So we have standard for wheelchairs. But when you are in the wheelchair, you realize how minimum the standard of disability requirement is. So those are the two things that belong to only to me, but everything else was shared. I had the most difficult thing out of that 3 weeks was that someone came to my room and brushed my teeth. That was the most difficult thing. I just never expected something like that. Because I got up, and the very first thing in the morning, nurse will come and clean your mouth and brush your teeth. And I said, can I rinse my mouth first because it may smell? She said, it's okay, we're used to it. Or just do it. And I said, no, I still want to rinse my mouth. And she said, no, we'll just have to do it. So she cleaned, and she gave me a water, and I said, okay, where is water is gonna go? And then she gave me a little basin in front of my mouth, and I spit after I rinsed my mouth. I have to say, at that moment, my dignity, I just picked that dignity out of my brain and throw that out from the windows because I just could not take it. It's just a simple thing like that. But the one thing that I learned a lesson, we sort of, with the all sense of kindness, we try to do things for other people because you think you're a nice person to look after, which is good. But at the same time, you always have to listen to how they feel. To me, all I wanted from the nurse was to say, I know it's difficult to have someone brush my teeth. That's all I needed to have. But if someone just brush your teeth as if I don't exist, just the object, that makes it very difficult. But I wanted to share this information because sometimes when we design nursing homes, we do things for the people who you don't know. That's their problem, it's not mine. But can you imagine if this happened to your mother or your grandmother even? You will never know how you feel. And older people are very wise, so they don't complain. So they may just be quiet, but we shouldn't actually design a place that human being has to adapt their life. We should be able to have enough knowledge, technology, that we are able to adapt changing needs of older people to stay as they are, where they are, and not being isolated. So I wanted to give you this example of my life of a nursing home that actually still exists. So it used to, I'll just give you like a history of how nursing home has been evolved. It started with institutional, it was medical model, it started from the hospital. And then, just it looks like hospitals. So we realized that that's not the way to do it for the person to have happiness. We're talking about happiness. So we created the system called person-centered care. But we are realizing that, as a human, like a one individual to happy, that's not enough. You know what older people always says? I like to have opportunity to be useful to others sometimes, because that makes me happy. So we've been learning that what the needs of human beings are. So that's why we created the organization called Ibasho. What we do is to try to challenge societal perception about older people and say, we all have to change our societal ideas. But Ibasho is a Japanese term. It is a place where people feel at home and belong as who you are. And organization-wise, Ibasho is it's just like saying that social perception about aging, and just try to create social capital by including elders, because we have not included elders enough to plan for older people. It's very strange. So what's the traditional view of older people? It's the elderly people are treated as a vulnerable population who needs to be cared for by younger generation. Do we happen to have over 65 years old in this room? No. Over 60s? No. Everybody's young. But if you become like a 65, you are 60 years old, under United Nations definition, you are older people. And when you talk to anyone who is 60 years old, maybe some of your parents are over 60 years old, if you tell them older people, they will not be very happy. But we just categorize them as someone who have to look after. So when we're talking about aging and global aging, we're all talking about, well, this is going to be a disaster, it's going to be an economical impact, it's going to break a bank of the society. And because aging society is perceived as older people are burden to our society that we have to look after. But is it really true? That what we believe is that elders are the valuable asset of our communities. When we started to work with older people, we were so surprised. They probably know everybody in the community, neighbors. Their parents, their relatives, their just children. They do have a lot of connection to the community and the knowledge about communities that we just never pay attention to so far. And we also believe that life experience and wisdom that benefits younger generations and helps strengthen the resilience of the community. Again, global aging is going to hit our society. who is going to be the one to help? Not the young people, but older people has to be engaged. Just to give you a very brief, scary statistics of the world, in 2050s, 1 out of 5 people will be over 60 over the world. And over 60 population is younger than 15, 15 or younger people. That actually overnumber it. And 80% of the world's older population live in developing countries, which is quite alarming because when we think about developing part of the world, we are just really not preparing anything for older people. And more than 180 million older people living in poverty. So my question is, are we able to age without fear under the current care services? I grew up in Japan and live in the States. My answer is no. I'm very fearful. I just cannot picture myself being happy when I get old because I just don't know how I can be age happy at this current moment. Do we want to be treated as a vulnerable population who needs to be cared for by society? Because again, aging happens to everyone. So that's our problem. It's all of you. Unfortunately, you cannot avoid it. I was watching TV the other day in the States saying, it was a TV commercial saying, oh, aging now became option. And I was very curious. I was looking at it. There was a Botox commercial. Yes, psychologically, it just, if you can do cosmetic way to just fix a little bit of skin problem, but that doesn't fix the aging problem. So our approach is try to really approach the social isolation and losing dignity and respect and not having positive social role. Those 3 things we would like to try to approach. Because if you're not very familiar with the policy for aging, you'll be very surprised. Its mental health and psychological needs has not been discussed. Most of the things are physical health. But what makes people happy, or what makes people unhappy? It is much more to do with their physical health. Social isolation can actually decrease the motivation for people to eat well, even. So everything is just interrelated. So I'm just going to go through quickly because I wanted to show you the example of the case study that we have done. So what we just try to do through our organization so far, it's a small not-for-profit organization, we empower older people to create a place together with us to have an opportunity for them to be useful. So what happened in Japan, you've probably seen this, like 4 years ago, we had a tsunami. This is the picture from that same town that I walked together. This is where we actually put the cafe with older people. What we wanted to do was to help older people, but not to just provide the health, the care. Because when you talk to older people, they will say they would like to be useful. It's too much. One lady said, when I was interviewing one lady at the temporary housing unit, I said, well, I have some funding to help you and help all of you. What do you want to do? She said, you know what? I'm so thankful. I have clothing, I have a house, I have food to eat right after tsunami when I didn't know what to do. Everybody helped us throughout the world. If I could write a letter to the people who gave all this donation, I will. But I don't know who to write because the money came, things came. Receiving all this gratitude is a great thing, but it gets too much after 1 year. What I want to do is to do something to return to other people. Can you help us out? So what we decided, that the lesson learned from them were that we shouldn't take opportunity for them to feel useful. So that's how we just try to create together. So this is what we have done. You see like an old farmhouse down here and the one on the top. that is, it was reconstructed. And this is a place where entire community can gather and work. This is all, this idea came out from the older people. We had about 1 year of workshop and interview to really almost peeling the onion skin to understand what older people want to do and what they wanted to do. And public place, it's owned by community, but not local government. Because older people said, we would like to run it, to educate young people about our culture. We would like to be useful to young people, but we don't want you to do the halfway and for us to finish the rest of it. So please let us do this. So we created the community. And the reconstruction of farmhouse, the reason why we took this farmhouse is that the symbol of the old building means old is beautiful. We normally just, take new things, but because this building was old, it does have a characteristic of the character of the life. And the person who donated this house lost 9 members, including her mother. So she wanted to also have that house remembered for her family. And older people also wanted to create an evacuation center. There a lot of older people died. I would say 65% of the victim, like a death, was over 65 years old in Japan in this tsunami. But one thing we didn't hear was that older people are the ones to save a lot of young children to say, run this way. And just if they had all this rice under the water. But children, like young people could not cook because we only cook with rice cooker. But electricity is out. No water. Only older people knew how to start the fire. All this knowledge actually helped when the disaster hit. If the system doesn't work out, like for me, what would I do if I can't use Google? I don't even know how to cook the most of my food. I need electricity but if I don't have electricity, we just cannot survive, but older people do. So those are the things that we should actually maintain. I'm just gonna go quickly. So we just try to do is just create the Ibasho Cafe. And again, this is not done by policy. We always, we worked with older people in Japan with the only one purpose, to create the place where older people have an opportunity to be useful to the community. That was the whole purpose. To do that, we created Ibasho principle. We have 8 principles that I can go through, and social missions. These people who are disaster area, the disaster victim, wanted to have 10% of their income as a part of the disaster relief funds for the future, so that they have a social missions. And older people design, build, operate, still they operate. They still learning to write grants so that they support as a community member. They have 9 board members from the community over the year. So they are really running the whole show. And social environments, we created not-for-profit organization as the community, and non-institutional services, and those are created by elders. We needed to have a government board to go against the government's requirements sometimes, because the government would like to take over those services sometimes because it's easy for them. So we wanted to have a not-for-profit community body who can actually go against what, just to maintain what they want to do. So one of the principles is, it's simple, older people are valuable assets to the community. This picture shows you the man. He's a retired carpenter. He doesn't know how to, the young people don't know how to do carpentry stuff, but he does all kinds of carpentry work around this place so the young people can come and learn how to do the old carpentry work. Creating informal gathering place, we wanted to create non-institutional. Older people said, I don't want to go to adult day center, senior center. And I said, why you don't want to go there? They said, because they will tell you when to come, what to do, and I can't go home when I want to. Can we create that? And community members drive development in implementation. We have a small funding from the World Bank to have empowerment, to have engaging older people to be a part of the project. That has been a problem with development and city development as well, that we never really included vulnerable population, like women, children, older people for their own place. So we always have them included. And community, this is another pictures. All these older people, I have to say, all this job, they don't have to do it, but they want to find something to do. Because especially men don't like to sit around the cafe, but they want to do something. And we want this place to be all generation involved in the community. It is not about activities on Friday night at 2 o'clock or Wednesday night at 5 o'clock. Just the normal place where we create, the children will come. This is a retired fisherman. He's teaching about astrology right now for the children. And we also have lots of people come from overseas as a volunteer for the disaster area. So they bring like English book to read children about the English so that kids can actually learn new things. This picture to me is very important. All residents participate, normal community. This picture shows that the lady with the blue sweater, she has a severe dementia. She doesn't remember her name, she doesn't remember where she lives and her family. But the food that it's created on the right side, she made the whole thing. You know, if we don't recognize what older people can do and always focusing on what they cannot do, she would not have opportunity to teach young people how to cook traditional food. But she can still do it with the support. So this is a good learning experience, you know, rather than, you know, warehousing older people as if they can't do anything. We have to actually start to learn how to see the older people with what they can do. And local culture and traditions are respected. So this is an old farmhouse. I'm not sure if you can see clearly. It is inside the house. It's beautiful Japanese architecture. Why we did this? Two reasons. One, we wanted to hire retired carpenters so that they can teach young people how to do carpentry work, because our Japanese architecture tradition is dying out. So a lot of carpenters retired and young people cannot do the Japanese traditional architecture. So this was an opportunity for them to be able to teach children. And this is the principle 7. Our community has to be environmentally, economically, and socially sustainable. This picture shows it was a group of old women comes to Ibasho Cafe, and they clean without any chemicals, and teaching young people how to use vinegars and all this just organic way to clean the places. That's the way that, this group of older women learn how to be useful to younger generation and throughout the community. So they're always, everyone has a small, different responsibility and role to play. And this principle 8 is the last principle. The growth of a community is organic and embrace imperfection gracefully. It is quite strange that someone like me as a Japanese person to talk about imperfection, because we don't really like imperfections. But these pictures, you see a little like a yellowish, the balcony. We needed to have a ramp for the wheelchair from the city requirements. We talked to the city mayors and the city developers to say, can we just not have the ramp for first 3 months, because we want the local older people to decide how that can be designed. So now it is actually designed. But the community member came and had a lot of discussion, and they had lots of fun creating the ramp for them, because they never had opportunity to decide those things. So we like to actually take the lesson that, designers shouldn't over-design. It's very hard to do, but we should intentionally leave some imperfection so that user can perfect them. I think it's the same as for the development for the city. So this is like a normal life after the opening. They have all kinds of events. And again, this is all run by older people, and their program for the young children. So it's not a grandmother's cafe that grandma hang out. Older people runs it, but all the events are done for the children to learn some culture. So we had operation, operation money that we have to create. So we have, the group of older people decided to have organic garden. So now, it's 1 year later, they started organic garden, and now they have organic farmers market that is serving for the community in the disaster area. So I'm going to go quickly through because I don't have a lot of time. So why I am just stressing embracing imperfection, because if the place is not perfect, that actually could bring people to talk about it. If everything is perfect, nobody cares. They don't put their own effort. And that forces people to talk to one another. Because we left all these places imperfect, new members can participate in the placemaking. And new people will come because it's not perfect location. They can just fix things, and they don't have to worry about it. And that really helped to develop culture of inclusiveness. So the one thing I learned from this Ibasho Cafe, the why that Ibasho Cafe was so important for me was really rooted of the experience of living in nursing home. I had nothing to do, no role to play, and people treat me as a person who are not able to do anything. I was parked, I couldn't really do anything. And I said I had a headache. They said, "You always complain." That's the kind of life that I had, and I felt like this is not the place where old people has to go, because I see everyone, like I have done research in the project in Bhutan, Africa, Japan, Sri Lanka. What I see of the eyes of the elders are just a sparkle, it's just behind their eyes, but it just doesn't have an opportunity to shine. That's why we wanted to create this Ibasho Cafe, so that society can actually see and trust more for older people's own energy and own abilities. But the community, we always talk about community development, but community is not something you can just passively receive. You actually have to negotiate and create with others. Otherwise, if we don't let this culture happen to what we do for any project, we actually create another institutional setting. So when we're talking about creating community, we have to learn to provide imperfection and have other people to decide. And if they fight, they will learn, they will know how to do it. So I would like to end with a quote that I found in Bhutan when I have done the research, the project in Bhutan. That to me, it just captures so well with what we should really remind ourselves when we think about elder care. The place to be happy is here. Time to be happy is now. The way to be happy is to make other people happy. I think it all applies to all of us. So we should make sure that we won't take that away from older people, thinking that we have to look after for them. We always have to think about what makes them feel happy, which is to give them opportunity to make other people happy. Thank you very much. Any questions? I think that's it. Thank you. Thank you very much.